Let me ask you a serious question. If a man truly loved you, would you even know what that looks like? Most people think they know love when they feel butterflies. But butterflies fade. Real love? It shows up in the smallest, most consistent ways. And that's where most people miss it. Because the truth is, you've probably walked away from someone who would have moved mountains for you, and you've probably stayed too long with someone who barely lifted a finger. In today's world, love is loud, flashy, filtered. But the kind of man you should never let go of. He won't just say the right things, he'll do the right things every single day. And not because he has to, but because he wants to. This video isn't just a list, it's a wake-up call. It's a mirror. It's a guide to help you recognize the quiet actions that scream loyalty, respect, and depth. If you've ever felt confused about a man's intentions, this could be the moment that clears it all up. Because when you know what to look for, love stops feeling like a gamble and starts feeling like peace. So let's dive into the 8 things a man does when he's genuinely all in, and why you should never lose a man who does these things for you. There's a difference between hearing you and listening to understand you. When a man truly values you, he doesn't just nod along or wait for his turn to speak. He leans in, not just physically, but emotionally. He's present. He remembers the things you didn't emphasize. He catches the tone behind your words, and he wants to understand what's behind your silence. That's intentional listening. And it's one of the rarest, most underrated signs of real love. Most people listen to reply, but a man who listens with intent, he listens to connect. He listens to learn who you are, not just what you're saying. He's not distracted by his phone, scanning the TV behind you, or waiting for the conversation to end. In his world, in that moment, you are the priority. Here's what makes it even more powerful. He remembers the little things, the name of your best friend, the story about your childhood scar, that one time you said your favorite flower was wild lavender. Months later, he shows up with it. Because listening with intent isn't just a behavior, it's a mindset. It shows emotional maturity, empathy, and a heart that's genuinely tuned into yours. So if you're with a man who makes you feel heard, not just heard from, don't overlook that. In a world where everyone's trying to talk louder, the one who's willing to quiet down just to hear you better is rare. Never lose a man who listens like that. Respect isn't just about how he treats you in public. It's how he honors your limits when no one's watching. Let's be clear, a man who genuinely cares for you will never test your boundaries just to get his way. He won't guilt you, pressure you, or try to convince you out of what feels right to you. Because to him, your comfort, your consent, and your clarity matter more than his ego. This isn't about control. This is about emotional safety. Boundaries aren't walls you put up to push someone away. They're guidelines that tell someone how to love you better. And the man who respects those boundaries, he sees them not as threats, but as invitations to step up, to be more thoughtful, to earn trust over time. He doesn't get defensive when you say, "I'm not ready for that yet." He doesn't make it weird when you ask for space. He doesn't joke about your limits or call you too sensitive. Instead, he responds with, "Thank you for telling me. Take all the time you need. I hear you, and I respect that." That's the kind of man who's safe to love. Because when someone respects your boundaries, they're showing emotional maturity, self-restraint, and deep integrity. Not just in how they treat you, but in how they honor the version of you you're still becoming. And here's the secret. When your boundaries are respected, trust deepens. Intimacy becomes real. You feel safe to open up, to grow, and to be fully yourself, not because you have to force connection, but because it's built on something solid. So if he's the kind of man who doesn't flinch when you say no, if he protects your peace instead of disrupting it, if he asks what you need instead of assuming, do not take that lightly. That's emotional gold. And in today's world, it's rare. Never lose a man who respects your boundaries, because he's already proven he can handle your truth. Anyone can remember your birthday, but the man who remembers what made you cry last October, that's different. Real love isn't just shown in grand gestures or big declarations. It lives in the little things, the passing comments, the side stories, the quiet moments most people overlook. But a man who's truly invested in you, he doesn't forget, he doesn't dismiss. He absorbs. He remembers the way your eyes lit up when you talked about that book you loved as a kid. He knows how you take your coffee, even when you don't say it. He brings you your favorite snack after a hard day. Not because you asked, but because he noticed. Why? Because he's paying attention. That's what makes it so powerful. The little things aren't little when they're remembered. They're signs of emotional presence, care, and a heart that's truly tuned into yours. He remembers your favorite movie quote, the one no one else gets. He texts you before your job interview, because he knows it makes you nervous. He recalls the exact moment you told him your biggest fear, and he handles it with gentleness every time. This kind of memory isn't about having a photographic mind. It's about intentional love, because when someone remembers the details, what they're really saying is, you matter, I see you, and nothing you say to me is ever too small to hold on to. Let that sink in. In a world full of distractions, where most people are only half listening and half present, finding a man who not only hears you but retains the details of who you are, that's rare. And it's not just romantic, it's reassuring. It means your voice isn't getting lost. Your presence is being felt. Your inner world is being honored. Here's the deeper truth. When he remembers the little things, he's showing you that you're not just part of his life, you're a priority in it. Your emotional landscape matters. Your joy, your pain, your quirks, your preferences. They aren't background noise to him. They're part of the reason he chooses you. So if you're with a man who notices the things that others forget, if he brings up stories you told him months ago, if he surprises you with something simple that means everything to you, do not overlook that. Because it's easy to fake a romantic dinner. It's much harder to fake consistency, care, and emotional memory. Never lose a man who remembers the little things, because he's showing you he's listening with his heart, not just his ears. A man who truly loves you won't fear your growth. He'll fuel it. When you share your dreams, the real ones, pay attention to how he reacts. Does he change the subject? Does he downplay your ambition? Does he make you feel like it's too much or too far? Or does he light up with you? The man you should never lose is the one who believes in your vision, even when it's not convenient for him. He's not intimidated by your passion. He doesn't shrink in your light. Instead, he says, how can I help you get there? He may not understand every detail of your goals, but he understands you. He gets why it matters. And so he stands beside you, not in competition, not with control, but with support. That's rare, because let's be honest, not everyone is built to love a woman with big dreams. It takes security, it takes strength, it takes emotional maturity to say, I love you not for who you are today, but for who you're becoming, and I'm here for all of it. He asks about your ideas. He celebrates your wins, even the small ones. He challenges your self-doubt, not to dismiss it, but to remind you who you are. He doesn't say you're working too hard. He says, make sure you rest. I've got dinner tonight. He doesn't get jealous of your shine. He brags about you when you're not even around. That's not just support. That's alignment. It's the kind of partnership that lifts you higher, not holds you back. And here's the deeper beauty. When a man supports your dreams, he's not just saying, I believe in you. He's saying, I want to build a future where both of us thrive, where your voice matters just as much as mine. Because real love isn't about sacrifice. It's about elevation. It's about becoming more, together. So if you're with a man who shows up for your purpose, if he encourages the parts of you that the world told you were too much, if he reminds you of your strength when you forget it yourself, do not let that go lightly. He's not just supporting your dreams. He's becoming part of the reason they're possible. Never lose a man who supports your dreams, because he's not just loving who you are, he's investing in who you're destined to be. If you're constantly left wondering how he feels, where you stand, or what he's really thinking, that's not love. That's confusion disguised as connection. True love doesn't leave you guessing. A man who genuinely values you will speak with clarity, even when the conversation is difficult. Because open communication isn't optional in a healthy relationship. It's the foundation of it. When a man communicates openly, he gives you space to breathe emotionally. You're not decoding mixed signals or trying to interpret one-word answers. You don't lie awake at night analyzing what he didn't say, because he tells you. He makes you feel safe, not because he says all the right things, but because he's willing to be real, raw, and honest, even when it's uncomfortable. He doesn't go silent when things get hard. He doesn't disappear when conflict shows up. He doesn't weaponize silence or push your emotional buttons just to feel powerful. Instead, he leans in. He says what's on his heart. He asks you to share yours. He creates a space where truth is welcome, not punished. This kind of communication isn't always smooth. It's not always pretty, but it's consistent. It's intentional. It's rooted in a desire to build something strong, not just survive the surface. He doesn't talk at you, and he doesn't expect you to read his mind. He opens up his world and invites you into it. He makes it safe for you to express yourself, without judgment or dismissal. Open communication is emotional maturity in action. It shows that he's not afraid of vulnerability, that he doesn't see emotions as weakness, that he values resolution over ego, peace over power, and more than anything, it shows that he's not in this for control. He's in it for connection. When a man speaks honestly, even when it's difficult, he's showing you he cares enough to keep the bridge between you strong. Because real love isn't just felt, it's spoken, it's clarified, it's worked through. And without that, all you have is a relationship built on assumptions and silence, which is where most love stories fall apart. So if you have a man who tells you how he feels, who invites you to talk about your needs, who listens when you speak, and who owns his truth without playing games, don't take that for granted. It's rare, it's real, and it's what lasting love is made of. Never lose a man who communicates openly, because when you have that, you have a love that grows in truth, not just in moments. There's something deeply healing about being with someone who doesn't add chaos to your life. A man who protects your peace is a man who understands that love should feel like safety, not survival. In a world full of noise, pressure, and emotional roller coasters, his presence becomes your calm. He's not perfect. He has flaws, but he's intentional about being the kind of man who brings ease, not tension, to your mind and heart. Protecting your peace doesn't mean he agrees with everything or never disagrees. It means that even in conflict, he speaks with care. He never raises his voice just to win. He never uses your vulnerability as ammunition. He doesn't storm out, slam doors, or weaponize silence. Instead, he stays grounded. He listens. He chooses solutions over drama, conversation over blame. He understands your triggers, not to walk on eggshells, but to move with awareness. He doesn't make you feel crazy for being sensitive. He doesn't mock your anxiety or label you as too much. He holds space for you to be fully human, to have emotions, to need rest, to set limits, and he never makes you feel guilty for it. When he sees you overwhelmed, he doesn't criticize, he softens. When life gets heavy, he doesn't make it heavier. He becomes part of your peace, not a threat to it. That's not just love, that's emotional intelligence in action, and it's incredibly rare. You'll notice he doesn't compete with your silence. He doesn't need to fill every moment with noise or control. He knows how to be present without pressure. He's the kind of man who knows that peace isn't passive. It's something you actively protect. And he treats your inner world with respect. Because he sees that your mental health, your emotional stability, your joy, they all matter. He doesn't create uncertainty just to keep you chasing clarity. He doesn't love you one day and pull away the next. His consistency becomes your comfort. And when he sees that you're struggling, even if he doesn't fully understand, he says, "What do you need right now?" And he means it. A man like that isn't trying to control your emotions. He's trying to hold a space where your emotions are safe, where you can exhale, where your nervous system doesn't feel like it has to fight for love. And when you find someone like that, someone who brings stillness in the middle of the storm, you'll realize how sacred that kind of peace really is. Never lose a man who protects your peace, because that kind of love won't just change your relationship, it will change your life. One of the most underrated signs of a man worth keeping is this: he owns his mistakes. Not just when it's convenient, not just when you catch him, but because he genuinely values growth over ego. A man who takes accountability is telling you, without even saying it, "I respect this relationship enough to look inward, not just point fingers." When something goes wrong, he doesn't get defensive. He doesn't twist your words. He doesn't minimize your feelings to protect his pride. He listens. He reflects. And when he's wrong, he says so. Clearly, sincerely. No excuses. No backpedaling. There's nothing more emotionally exhausting than trying to build a future with someone who refuses to own their part in anything. It leaves you doubting your own reality. It turns every disagreement into a blame game. It breaks down trust, slowly and silently. But a man who takes accountability creates a very different dynamic. When he messes up, he doesn't say, "You made me act that way." He says, "I shouldn't have said that, and I'm sorry." He doesn't disappear and come back acting like nothing happened. He initiates the hard conversations. He follows through with changed behavior, not just promises. That kind of emotional responsibility creates safety. Because you know you're with someone who's not just reacting from a place of pride or fear. You're with someone who's working on himself. Someone who understands that love isn't about being perfect, it's about being honest. Taking accountability also means he sees you as an equal. He doesn't talk down to you. He doesn't try to win arguments just to avoid feeling weak. He sees conflict as an opportunity to understand each other better, not a battle to be won. And that is incredibly rare. This is the man who says, "You were right, I didn't handle that well," and actually means it. This is the man who circles back after an argument, not because you demanded it, but because he wants to grow, not just as a partner but as a man. And here's the thing, when someone takes responsibility for how they show up, you feel safer showing your full self. You stop bracing for impact. You start trusting the space between you, and that's where true connection lives. So if you're with a man who can apologize, self-reflect and take ownership, not just to end the tension but to grow from it, that's not just emotional maturity, that's leadership. That's love in action. Never lose a man who takes accountability, because he's not just choosing you, he's choosing to be better for you, and that changes everything. Real love isn't found in the big moments, it's built in the small ones, repeated over time. A man who truly values you doesn't just fall for you once, he chooses you every single day. Not just when things are easy, not just when you're glowing with joy or dressed up for date night, but even when you're overwhelmed, even when you're distant, even when life feels heavy and uncertain, he stays. He shows up. He chooses. That choice may not always be loud or poetic. Sometimes it's in the way he checks in on you after a long day. Sometimes it's in the quiet moments, folding the laundry, warming up your coffee, sending a text just to say, "I'm thinking of you." There's no performance in it, no grand gestures for social media, just a steady, intentional presence that says, "You matter to me still, again, always." Choosing someone every day isn't about being obsessed or codependent. It's about commitment without conditions. It's waking up and deciding to invest in the connection, in the peace, in the partnership. It's choosing patience when it would be easier to walk away. Choosing empathy when frustration is high. Choosing effort, not just emotion. A man like that doesn't need to be chased. He doesn't disappear when things get too real. He doesn't keep one foot out the door while pretending he's all in. He's consistent, not perfect, but present. Not always eloquent, but dependable. And the beautiful part, you don't have to wonder where you stand, because his actions speak before his words do. He reminds you in the way he makes time, in the way he makes space, in the way he never stops seeing you, that he's still choosing this love, even on the hard days. You may not always agree. You may go through rough patches, but his presence never feels like a question mark. He doesn't let ego, pride, or fear get in the way of showing up, because he's not just in love with the idea of you, he's in love with the reality of you, your light, your layers, your lows, and your becoming. So if you're with someone who keeps choosing you, not out of habit, not out of convenience, but out of a genuine grounded desire to grow something real with you, hold on to that, protect it. Because that kind of love isn't found, it's nurtured, it's built, it's chosen, again and again. Never lose a man who chooses you every day, because that's the kind of love that doesn't fade, it deepens. If you've made it this far, take a moment, not just to think about him, but to think about you. Because this video wasn't just about identifying the right man, it was about helping you reconnect with what you deserve. Every single sign we talked about, listening with intent, respecting your boundaries, remembering the little things, supporting your dreams, communicating openly, protecting your peace, taking accountability, and choosing you daily. These aren't just green flags. They're the bare minimum for healthy love. And you are not asking for too much by wanting them all. You're just asking the right person. Because real love isn't confusing. It doesn't make you shrink. It doesn't leave you second-guessing your worth. When a man is truly there for you, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, you'll feel it in your body. Your nervous system will relax. Your mind will stop racing. Your heart will stop begging to be chosen. If you've already found someone who embodies these things, cherish it, nurture it, let yourself trust it, even if healthy love feels unfamiliar. But if you're still searching, or if you're in a relationship that feels like constant emotional work, just to feel seen, let this be your standard moving forward. You don't have to settle for potential. You don't have to wait around for someone to figure it out. The man who's right for you won't need convincing. He'll already be showing up in the ways that matter most. Not just when it's easy, but when it counts. So what's next? Get honest with yourself. Reflect. Rewatch this video if you need to. Ask who in your life is really showing up like this. And more importantly, are you allowing yourself to receive this kind of love? Because the right man can only stay if you believe you're worthy of him in the first place. Don't just settle for attention. Wait for alignment. Don't just fall for chemistry. Wait for consistency. Don't just chase love. Learn to recognize it when it's real. And when you find a man who does these 8 things without needing to be told, pushed, or convinced, don't lose him. Because that's the kind of love that doesn't just last, it transforms you.